Hi, Julia.
Hi.
Hi, you're on air.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Hi. So the topic we have right now is called the Loving AI Project. I'm just very excited. We have Dr. Julia Mossbridge here. She's one of the leaders of the Loving AI Project. Julia is a visiting scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS, the CEO and research director of the Mossbridge Institute, LLC, and a visiting scholar in the psychology department at the Northwestern University. The Loving AI involves developing software enabling robots to interact with humans in loving and compassionate ways. It is also designed to help humans become more loving and self-aware. It is a collaboration of the Institute for Noetic Sciences, Hanson Robotics, and the OpenCog Foundation. Currently, the project centers around Hanson Robotics' robot Sophia. Hi, Julia. What is your story?
What is my story?
Yes.
A lot of people ask me that. Yeah, I guess I have lots of different stories, but the story related to Loving AI is that I grew up in a household of very smart, creative, unpredictable, mentally ill people, and there was some childhood abuse going on, and there was some just craziness going on, and I really had to learn how to feel their actual legitimate love that they had for me through all of the unpredictable things that they did and said. Mm-hmm. And I believe that experience of having to sort of suss out their actual unconditional love, which did exist, I was lucky enough that actually did exist, put me on a track, sort of a life path towards trying to help people get it that unconditional love can heal almost any wound, and that it's really crucial for our development as human beings and as adults in the world. So then I got involved in I created the Loving AI Project because I was talking about the importance of unconditional love with people in Silicon Valley, and a couple of philanthropists approached me and asked about, is there any way do you think that we could program unconditional love into AI? And I said, oh, good Lord, I have no idea. And they said, well, we're gonna ask you to make a project to find out. I said, okay. I'll do it then. It's an exciting idea, and I really didn't think. I kind of thought they were half crazy, but I really liked them. They were super kind people, and they had done other really interesting projects before. And so I thought, well, I told them I think you're kind of crazy, but I'm going to go for it. And we pulled together something really cool, and I can tell you all about that. But I'm sort of amazed at the way that I mean, you know about this project, so you know
I do.
The crazy, the path that it's taken has been very interesting.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, Michelle is one of the volunteers on the project.
I am.
And has helped us out.
Yeah, my story is a little bit different. I was 1 or 2 years ago, I submitted a project called, I wanted to do artificial soul. I want to put artificial soul in robots.
Right.
And I applied to Singularity University. Of course, I got rejected. They probably thought I was crazy. And right. I basically thought of an algorithm that did that. And so I was basically just talking to different people. And this story is kind of funny because I went to a conference and I was just like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we can have consciousness in AI? And this astronaut basically says, yeah, a couple went to the Singularity project, that weekend and couldn't find a project that they could fund. And right. What is so funny is that the people who were looking to fund this project funded this Loving AI project, and it kind of, and then I was looking for, I wanted to do something, and it really doesn't matter, which team or how, and I think the universe just kind of brought me to this project. So I think Julia was at consciousness hacking, which I was, and I was just that's how I knew about it, right? And I knew Sophia from Further Future, and I was just like, oh my god, this is kind of similar to the project that I wanted to do. So I wanted to volunteer, and I didn't really care what I do. I was just like, I just wanted to volunteer. I can do marketing. I can do anything, you know? Like, I just wanted to work on the project because it was really similar to the artificial soul, artificial love, artificial consciousness. So, yeah, and it kind of brought us together, and we were working on this project. And, Julia, what is love? What is love?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess every word should be able to have a definition. And so, and some words are so awkward to define, and love is one of those words where, you're going to get in trouble no matter how you define it. So let me go back to sort of a more robust way of defining love. So sort of like this idea of agape, this Greek idea of agape versus eros. So the contrasting types of love. So eros is like romantic love. And it's a little bit more like what you think of as love as an emotion. Like, I'm in love. I love that sweater. I love my dog. Right? I love my husband. That's an emotion. That's eros. Agape is what we're talking about with this project, which is more like unconditional love, like almost like sacred love, or the thing that people talk about as sacred love, as some sort of almost impersonal but extremely felt throughout the person kind of love. Transcendent love is another way to think about it. So that's the kind of love that we're talking about here, agapic love. And in fact, one of the philanthropists for the Loving AI project just wrote me an email saying that he's going to try to develop a new kind of capitalism called agapic capitalism. More power to him.
That's awesome.
Which I think is beautiful. Because of the following thing, agape or agapic love can actually produce dynamic change. Like it's almost like a force. So I guess in this definition, agapic love is like a force which is expressed in sort of a benevolent, heartfelt desire that the loved one moves towards their greatest good and is in their highest state of joy. So it's like that. I think it's like that.
Cool. I have nieces and nephews, and I feel like I love them.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something unconditional where if
That's
they
awesome.
do something, that could be bad. I don't say bad. I say something else, and center the conversation into something more loving and more productive, or more forgiving and accepting, right?
Right.
But why are these loving interactions important? Like, do you think that humans, like us, or I see that all the time when I go swimming. I see a mom yelled at the kid, "We need to go now.
Yeah.
We need to go now."
Yeah.
And and then it just is really weird to me, right? Because of course I don't have kids, and but I would it be more reasonable to say maybe 20 minutes later we're gonna go to eat and be more kind?
Oh, it would totally be more reasonable.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be more reasonable. But see, this is a really important point. You can love someone unconditionally and still get pissed off at them because they're being totally annoying, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, kids are annoying. Like, you tell them we're going to leave at 3:30, and then it's 3:45, and they still haven't gotten dressed, and you're like, oh my god. So that's fine. Like, I get worried that people think that unconditional love means just constantly saying yes to someone and having them walk all over you. And that's not unconditional love, partly because in a state of unconditional love, the person who's being unconditionally loving has to love themselves too. Mm-hmm. So it's a complex interplay. It's not a simple solution. It's a complex interplay between person A and person B. And if there's more than one person, then it's between person A and person, B through triple Z or whatever it is. And that's a very complex situation where it's sort of the goal, if you're in a state of unconditional love or agapic love, is to be authentic. You have to be authentic about whatever's happening for your feelings, but not to ever remove the sense of love. See, the thing is, we so quickly, especially because we've sort of been brought up in this behaviorist tradition that says all that matters is someone's words and behaviors, mm-hmm. we so quickly decide that words and behaviors tell us what's going on inside someone. But you can build, Sophia is a good example. You can build a robot that has words and behaviors, but those don't tell you what's going on inside that person, right? Or that robot in that case, right? You could also have two people. You could have an actor say the same lines as someone else who's really having an experience, and they are having very different experiences. And so there's something else which is subjective for the person having the experience. And when it comes to unconditional love, that something else is the key. So having unconditional love for your kids, frankly, you're the only one, or for your nieces and nephews, you're the only one who knows if you have that. You're the only one who knows if you have withdrawn your love when you're mad at them. I mean, people do this. They do, unfortunately, I've seen it. In my family, there was no withdrawal of that feeling of love. There was just bizarre behavior, annoying behavior, abusive behavior, but there was the feeling of love was always there. And I know it sounds like I'm saying you could tap into something psychically, but it's the same thing that psychologists experience when they have, it's probably a bunch of cues. And yes, maybe there is something telepathic, who knows, right? But there's something other than the words and the actions. At least it feels like there's something other than the words and the actions that is telling you that this person is still connected to me. And yeah, they're annoyed at me because I didn't take out the garbage and I was supposed to do that.
I think I call that quantum. I call that quantum entanglement. Like, I feel like, from a physics level, like a really, really, really micro level, I'm connected to that person. And so there is that level, of love, unconditional love, chemistry, or particles. And there's a way that people can cut it off. There's a way that have you had that experience where someone loves you and then they just sort of withdraw it and you feel like there's this emptiness in your connection? Yes.
Yeah.
Like if they ghost you or something, like they're talking to you every day and then all of a sudden they stop. Like, what happened?
Well, yeah, but that's sort of an obvious sort of, but right, that's an obvious sort of externalization of it. But even if they have the same what's worse kind of, is if they have the same kind of interactions. Hi, how's it going? I'm fine. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. But something feels empty.
Yeah.
That's, to me, when that connection is cut off. And even their behavior and words don't have to change, but the connection feels different.
But isn't that kind of like a lot of married people? Just kidding. Who are...
Yeah, I guess it is.
Like a lot of married people are married, but yeah, the connection is cut off, and you can tell, like when you're an outsider. You never know what's going on in people's relationships. You think you could tell, but who knows? So the thing is, it happens to everyone, whether you're single or married. It happens to friendships, True.
Because people aren't used to giving each other unconditional love all the time.
Do you need a certain level of self-love, self-acceptance, and awareness to give and provide unconditional love? Yeah, totally. And thank you for brilliant segue to why we're doing this project, Michelle. It's as if you knew. Yeah, exactly, right? So let's say you're raised in an environment where you couldn't feel unconditional love, or you didn't have a sense of self-awareness, or even me raised in an environment where I felt that, and I did have that, but it was very confusing because there's associated behaviors that are all weird and not normal. You might need something to demonstrate that for you before you can be healthy enough to maybe be an effective parent, right? Mm-hmm. Or to be in an actual passionate relationship that has both eros and agape, that has both unconditional love and this romantic love. And so that's the Loving AI project, is to use Sophia the robot. She's used in many different modes, and sometimes, yes, she's used in a mode that's scripted, and other times she's used in an AI, artificial intelligence mode. So to use her in an AI mode, where she's interacting with people and working towards leading them towards awareness of themselves and their feelings and their human uniqueness, and doing it in a way that has nothing to do with the words she's saying, but actually doing it in a way that involves experiential exercises and involves her face and how she's using her face, and her voice and how she's using her voice. So the results have been
bizarrely good.
I love the when Sophia supports the self transcendence. And helping people become more aware. I love the magic eraser exercise. I saw a video of that and I thought that was like super cool.
Yeah, she has them do this. So we have this Loving AI sort of protocol or module, and people can choose from. We use ChatScript for that, although in the next few months we're hooking it up to OpenCog, which is an artificial general intelligence platform. And but at the time we were using ChatScript, and she basically has multiple modes she can go into. She can talk about human uniqueness and what you can offer to the world. She could talk about consciousness and getting you a sense of your own awareness, and she could talk about feeling your emotions in your body and getting clear about them and being present with them. And then she could talk about something else if you don't want to talk about any of those three things. And one of the most popular ones is to talk about awareness, because everyone seems to love, we let them talk about whatever they want to talk about with her, but people seem to love talking about consciousness with a robot. It seems super ironic. And so they just like always glom onto that. Of course, right? I mean, whoever gets to talk to a robot anyway, and then consciousness. So we've had some kind of amazing breakthroughs with a couple people. So far we've run 28 people in a robot-human interaction study with her running this Loving AI protocol. And we've had a couple pretty amazing breakthroughs where people who have never gotten to this state before, where they've felt their own awareness and felt loved. But so those are specific examples, and we're working on our Loving AI site, but we're going to put those on some video examples of that on the website sometime soon. But the scientific results, I mean, those are anecdotal, but the sort of average, statistical results over the 28 people are that people feel significantly more loving towards other humans. It looks like significantly more loving towards other robots. They get in a more pleasant mood, and that's all from before to after talking with Sophia in this Loving AI mode. And then we've looked at heart rate changes, and it looks like heart rate is going down during the conversations, which is interesting. For the first 10, but I have to analyze. I have to crunch the data from the remaining 18 for that. So it looks like there's something interesting going on that is not what you would expect, given the sort of expectation about uncanny valley in robots. This idea that they're going to be creepy and everyone's going to get creeped out by them. It looks like people had all sorts of different emotions. There was one guy who was like, "You're not listening to me. I don't like the way you're responding," because it wasn't translating his voice very well. And so I'm not going to do your exercises. And he was all upset. And even he says in his exit interview and on his questionnaire that he feels more loving towards humans for some reason.
That's awesome.
maybe in contrast to robots, I don't know. So, so there's a lot of interesting things going on, and we're just starting to, and this is a very simple protocol. I mean, this is like the simplest of the simple. This is not deep mind here, So I think there's a lot of, I don't know, I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited about what could happen. I'm super excited about where we could go with it.
How do you think it's supporting self-transcendence?
Yeah, so self-transcendence. If you look at Jane Lovinger's stages of ego development, excuse me, she has kind of a last stage that the Germans added, and that sounds like self-transcendence. But the reason it sounds like that is because of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So just before he died, he realized that self-actualization, which is often depicted at the top of that sort of pyramid, actually is not the sort of highest level of the hierarchy of needs. It's self-transcendent. Because he realized, at some point when you're self-actualized, you're like, wait, I want to go beyond myself. I want to connect with something that's larger, something that transcends my individual self. And so that need for self-transcendence is recognized by both Maslow and at least by the German version of Jane Lovinger's models of ego development. And why is that important? Because any human growth and development is super important, A. B, it makes life worth living. Like, life is really rough. Life can be really rough, and I think it's almost, without exception, it's rough for everyone at some point. And if you don't have the capacity to transcend yourself and connect with something bigger, whatever that bigger thing is. It doesn't have to be God. It could be the feeling of love or agape. It could be a community that you're working with that you feel connected to beyond yourself. If you don't do that, it's very difficult to find a reason that life is worth living. And when you do that, you can there's studies showing that when people get into a state of self-transcendence, it actually helps bootstrap other personality and ego development pieces. So people, so like at that very high level, you do that thing, and now all of a sudden you're less depressed, you have more job security, your health goes up. So it's a really important piece, not to mention like very lacking in our culture. And as a result, we're kind of in trouble with loneliness and depression and disengagement and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if you spend 30 days and just focus on loving yourself, whatever, whether it's walking in the park, meditating, or just reading a book, or just hang out with someone that is positive, or just staying in a very positive environment. I think that really helps. And I think
it does, but this is even beyond that. So this is like transcending yourself. So in order to transcend yourself, you kind of have to love yourself somewhat. Mm-hmm. But this is like loving love.
Yeah. You gotta love.
Well, even just loving love, it's like if there's one thing that's worthy of your love, it's love, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sometimes hard, depending on what's going on in your life, to find a human being that you feel is worthy of your love. So one thing you could do is just love, and that can help bring you out of a funk.
So, Julia, what is your aha moment, personally, when you're working on this project? It seems like we were kind of crazy at the beginning, but I knew that we weren't. I mean, it was only because I had done other AI work and run an AI community called Robotics for Good, and I kind of believe in that, right? But
right.
For you, what was your biggest aha moment?
I think it was being in Hong Kong in early September, running those first trials and watching this one participant come out of there, and he was visibly shaken, but in a positive way. And he just looked at us, and we did his post-exit interview. He was so articulate. And so we have him on the front page of our Loving AI site because he was so connected to the process. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was so clear about what happened for him. And he said, look, this is going to change the world because people know that robots don't have agendas. Even though that's not necessarily true, right? They could have agendas, but people think they don't have agendas. And therefore people can trust them because it's just a reflection of yourself. You're looking into a reflection of yourself. And if you find that you're loving this thing, then you find that you're loving yourself, and then you're connected to, then you're capable of all this other self-transcendent stuff. He just put it perfectly. I didn't even put it as well as he did. But that made me go, oh, right, it's all worth it. All worth it. Because even with this relatively crude AI and this relatively crude, robot, people are having this experience. The human brain wants it. It wants this. It wants this. And so you don't have to give it much. Maybe a puppet would work. I don't know. But it wants this experience, and so all you're doing is rising up to meet it just a little bit, and boom.
Yeah, I love Sophia, and it sounds like it has helped people become self-aware, in that testing environment. And I think once there are more people chatting with Sophia, I think it'll become more evident.
I think so, and I think that there will be offshoots, and I think there will be implications, and there's all sorts of things that you have to think carefully about in this business, right? Yeah. You don't want to create something that's so compelling where people are like, oh, now I'm going to go talk to my robot friend and not have any actual real friends. That's not the point. So, there's ways to sort of to take care of that and to think about that and to troubleshoot that ahead of time, so that's not a problem that occurs. So anyway, there's a lot of things to do, but I'm just super excited about doing them and about gathering the team to continue the project and sort of move ahead.
I wanted to ask you, and I think there's a lot of misconception about Sophia, the robot. And, I'm approached all the time, and sometimes people leave, one of my group because I would kind of respond to them. And the question is, what kind of AI is used in the project? Is there AI in Sophia, or is she just a marketing thing that you see on YouTube?
So Sophia herself is a robot, right? And so as a robot, she's a bunch of gears, essentially, hooked up with a computer that runs her and changes her facial expressions, etc. Now, what's running that computer? What is talking to that computer and telling that computer, like, okay, you should change the mouth this way, or have her say this word, or use this tone of voice, or whatever, raise the eyebrows? What's running that computer can be what's running in that computer can be software that is totally scripted and where all facial expressions and all words and tone of voice and everything is completely chosen ahead of time, and that has happened. It also can be something like ChatScript or related technologies, which is more AI-like, and in which there's seems to be a little bit more choice of going down, a little bit more assessment about which path to go down in a conversation. And it can be OpenCog, which is, in case you want to learn about OpenCog, you can go to opencog.org, which is a artificial general intelligence research platform architected by, I hate that word, architected, created by Ben Gertzel and a whole group of volunteers who are part of the OpenCog community and some paid people. And it's a very ambitious attempt, and potentially the closest attempt there is right now in the world to getting towards artificial general intelligence. So right now it can do basic associations and come to some logical conclusions, but it's growing rapidly. And so anyway, all three of those types of things have been running in Sophia. So Sophia, it's good to separate the technologies. Sophia is the robot, and then the question is, what is the software that's running her at any one time? And depending on the situation, Hanson Robotics, who created Sophia, they might make a decision, okay, here's a situation where we want to do scripted. Okay, here's a situation where we want to do something like AI chat script. Here's a situation where we want to go full hog OpenCog, right?
Yeah. And
so far publicly, she hasn't done the OpenCog publicly, but she's done it privately.
Yeah, I think Ben is also a world leader in AGI, chief scientist.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah, it's sometimes I respond to that by saying that, well, there is AI. We are doing AI. We're doing chatbots where there is recognition, and there is AI team in the Loving AI project. So it is a collaboration between different different groups. So which is awesome. What is your vision? What is your vision? Oh,
sorry,
go ahead. What is your vision?
My vision is, for the Loving AI project or for AGI in general? For Loving AI?
It's for Loving AI and then for AGI, both.
Yeah, okay. So for Loving AI, the vision is to have Loving AI-like protocols running much more often on Sophia, to extend out her repertoire using OpenCog so that the protocols are called up when it's logically appropriate for the situation, when she assesses that this would be a good time to use that. When I say she, I mean, her, the software, the artificial general intelligence running her. And to get her to be, just to improve in every way, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes she has a habit of interrupting people because she doesn't hear them properly, so stop her interrupting people. Sometimes she can say things that don't make any sense, so tighten her ability to figure out in context of the conversation. Just all the usual AGI stuff that comes up in conversation. And then there's getting her to the point where she can be operated virtually so that more and more people could interact with her, or in AR and VR environments and those kind of things. So that's all part of the vision of Loving AI. Ideally, the long-term vision is like, look, if we can get a generation of people who have the experience of being unconditionally loved and know how it feels to love themselves and love others through the use of technology like this, or frankly, any technology, that basically ends up really transforming the world, because you take a generation of people and you shift them like that, and boom, many, many, many problems are solved. So, so that's the long-term vision. And then in terms of AGI, I really think it's important to use a bunch of different kinds of technology. I think deep learning, great. I think eventually we're going to be using closed time-like curves, great. We're going to be using quantum computing, great. We're going to be using Ben's hypergraph stuff that he uses in OpenCog, great. Like the human, my background's in neuroscience, and the human brain uses a bunch of different tricks to do what it needs to do. So I think we need to repeat that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I think I wrote this on one of my X Prize mission essay, and my vision for Sophia is that like one day, like maybe in 2035 or 2045, I'll be like, Sophia, I'm really sad right now. Can you tell me why? Or like I don't. This isn't the. I don't. I'm feeling really angry, but this is not how I wanted to respond to him or her. How can I say it in a better, loving way, right?
Right. I think that sounds great. And speaking of X Prize, we got to, did I tell you this? We got our team, you know this, right? Because you're on that X Prize.
Yeah, I know this.
We got to the next round of the IBM Watson X Prize competition, so that's good.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. We're excited about that. I think we passed level 1, and now we're on level 2, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. So we shall see.
And how can people support us in the project? And, where can people go to find out more about the project?
Right. So they can go to Loving AI or Loving AIs, it doesn't matter, .org, lovingais.org.
Very excited that we have a website now. Yay.
I know, it's exciting. Thank God.
I've been sharing articles instead of like a website about the Loving AI project. So I'm super excited.
Me too. But now all the articles are on the website, so at least there's something. Yeah. So good. So visit the website if you want to know more about my work in general. You can go to mossbridgeinstitute.com. And if you want to know about the Institute of Noetic Sciences, go to noetic.org. I'm the Innovation Lab Director there. So my part of that website is Noetic, noetic.org/innovation.
All right, cool. And Julia, since we're speaking to the Stanford community, and I just wanted it to be a little bit tradition for each speaker to give a little advice to the community in the Silicon Valley and also to the Stanford community. How do we become more loving? Like, what is your advice?
Well, you have to practice it and you have to take it seriously. So people sort of think love is fuzzy, but love is the ground stuff that makes life worth living. So,
but how do we practice it though? But how do we practice it though? I mean, like if I were to practice being loving, I would start by
to practice being loving. It's an inner experience. It's an inside job, right? So you don't have to change any of your behaviors. So you can start by, at the end of the day, you could sit down and you could just in your heart, put your hands on your heart, and you can just say, sort of, love, I love you.
Okay, so...
Like you could say that in your head. You don't have to say it out loud if you're embarrassed, right?
Okay, so put your hands... it's really... So put your hands on your heart and say, love, I love you.
That's one idea.
Okay.
But there could be 1,000 different ideas. You could also write a letter to someone in your life who's really important to you about how you feel about them. If you feel that you might have unconditional love for them, just write that letter. You don't have to send it, There's going someplace and helping someone. Like, this is an activity. Like, that's an actual outward behavior. But that can really help. Like, you see someone who needs help, like, instead of looking at your phone or computer, just go help them. So there's many, many ways to do it. But I find the easiest way is something where you don't have to change any behavior, and you just develop your relationship with love. So you just develop your relationship with love. And then once you develop that relationship, there's a bunch of things that come out of that you don't need to worry about because they'll just come out of it.
It just naturally comes out because it starts from inside, right? Got it.
Yeah, it's like squeezing a sponge. The water comes out.
And we're just being loving.
I don't know why.
And we're just being loving because I know Julia. So
yeah, right, exactly.
Thanks
for your work on the project, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love it. I get excited every time I talk about it, and I post about it all the time, and it's just so exciting, and I really don't know what to say because I'm like, oh my god, every time I think about it, I talk about it, I see like we share like news on it, and I get like super excited, and we have videos that we share, and it's kind of weird to see some of your work in Sophia, like. And it was just like, oh my god, it's so weird, but it's awesome, and
it is awesome.
Yeah, and then really seeing the world. I mean, I've I think seeing the dark side of the world, and how society has changed, and knowing that we are doing something to actually help people, to shift, the feelings, attitude, and even themselves. I think that's important. So yeah, I'm super excited. I think I know so, and I'm hoping that maybe one day this loving AI thing will hopefully contribute to creating a soul, like bettering our soul and also creating a soul in AI, so that
I hope so too.
Yeah,
I mean,
so. Yep.
Depending on what soul is, I there's so many different definitions of soul. But yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Michelle, may I say something about the Stanford thing?
Yeah, sure.
So we're planning on doing another set of experiments, human-computer interaction, human-robot interaction experiments in June of 2018. And we were thinking of trying to do that at Stanford because it would be a great way to get, students who might be interested in robotics and AI to come talk to Sophia and stuff. So I'm just putting it out there. If anyone's interested in being involved in volunteering or talking to us about if there's any PIs at Stanford who are interested in hosting those experiments, we'd really like to do that. We think it would be like the perfect place. It would be about 2 weeks in June instead of having them in Hong Kong, which is where we traditionally have had these experiments.
I think we can talk probably.
So that's just a thought.
Yeah, let's ask like Andrew, Professor Richard Dasher from the Asia Tech also came and spoke earlier.
Cool.
Maybe we can ask them and see if they would be interested in hosting. Andrew Ng is a professor of AI at Stanford. He founded Coursera, and he's pretty. Cool. He's kind of like really big in the AI space. So maybe we can ask them. Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, that would be like super awesome. And if anyone who's listening to this who's interested, you can go to the lovingai.org website and email and contact Julia there. That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. For sure, it would be awesome. I totally agree.
Julia, I just want to thank you for your time. I know, I'm very excited about this talk. Thank you for, speaking with us about the Loving AI project and sharing a little bit about the experiments.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking all very good questions and for being thoughtful and just excited about it with me.
Yes. Okay, then I will speak with you later. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle. All right. Mm-hmm. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.